What if I told you the biggest factor when someone hires you isn't your quality, isn't your reviews or your reputation? It's actually something entirely different. And this is good news for you if you're just starting a house painting business or any sort of home service business. And I'm going to share this with you in this video today. If you're new here, my name's Tanner. I'm the founder of DripJobs, and I am excited to share with you sales, marketing, and systemization strategies for your home service business. Now, I want to give you a simple framework called the 595 rule. And this is a framework that I created that really helps me stay focused when doing estimates in the home for home owners. Now, here's the deal. The 595 rule came about because I found myself doing estimates and really feeling like I didn't really sell the customer. I have a background in car sales, life insurance, and even banking. So I have a really good experience in sales, and I can totally tell when I'm crushing it and building momentum and winning someone over versus leaving the customer feeling more confused than they were before I got there. So obviously we know the age-old principle, a confused buyer never buys, and we never want people to feel confused. So what I stopped doing in the traditional way of doing a home service sale was pretty much word vomiting everything that I thought was valuable to the customer. For example, the first thing I do was go in and tell them about our warranty, and I tell them about the paint products we use, and I tell them about pretty much everything that had nothing to do with their desire for wanting the project done. This was an absolute game changer simply because I recognized that this project wasn't about me. It was about the customer. And there's absolutely no way I could tap in to the emotional buying mechanism of really the why behind the project without asking. So the 595 rule is something that you should implement in your business. And really what that means is that we're going to spend 5% of our time talking about the project itself. Now, here's the deal. When you go to a restaurant, you assume that they know how to cook, right? When you go to a restaurant, you're not wondering what ingredients they're putting into the food unless you have an allergy, of course, and that would be your why. That would be something that's important to you. But for the most part, if you're going there for a great experience, you're not worried about what ingredients they're using or where they bought the steak. You're more concerned about the experience, the ambiance, the feeling of going to the restaurant and being satisfied. But more importantly, maybe it's your birthday, or maybe it's an anniversary, or maybe it's an important event, and that's the focus. The restaurant doing its job is not the focus of the experience you're after. And I had to really go back to my experience in the restaurant to understand that it's the same thing in the home service business. People aren't worried too much about the paint you're using unless that's how they buy. And you'll discover that in the discovery phase, right? People aren't worried about where you're getting the materials or what type of products you're going to use or the warranty and all that stuff. This is what I thought everyone cared about. But what I realized is that I was doing way too much work as a salesperson, telling people way too many things that they weren't even thinking about or caring about, and finding myself in a position where I was confusing my customer. So the 595 rule, 5% of the time is focused on really selling tangible aspects of the project. Like, again, what we're doing and what we're using and all the what's. But the 95 is about the why, because that's all you really have when you're dealing with homeowners, is the emotional aspect of the project. Now, what's interesting is, recently I've been in the market to buy a house, and we're getting quotes for a few different things. I'll tell you, if these companies just understood the 595 rule, they would have me sold. I'm an easy sell, but I won't give my business to someone that doesn't understand this concept, because this understanding helps foreshadow the type of experience I'm going to get when it comes to them actually doing the work, which is really what we're trying to do anyway. That's the big fear. That's why you have customers that ultimately are apprehensive to hire you, even though you're going to do a great job. They really don't know that. You can have 100 reviews. You can have the greatest testimonials. People know when it comes to service-based businesses, you're only as good as your last project. So there's always this element of fear because every job is different. So when it comes to me making a hiring decision, I had 2 fence companies. Obviously, they know that we're moving in. And generally speaking, when someone's getting quotes before they move in, they want it done really around the time they close. I had one fence company come out. They gave us a quote. We didn't need to be there. I don't have a face to a name. They just said they're going to run out, give us a quote, do some measurements, and send us a bid. So that's exactly what they did. So all I have there is the name of the company at the top of the invoice and a line item that says install fence with the materials they're going to use, which I have no clue what it means because I'm not in the fence business. And ultimately, a price. Okay, so really what they gave me was really I would say a standard. Okay, so now before getting the estimate, I didn't know what it was going to cost. I honestly didn't know. So when I reached out for that estimate, this was more, honestly, to help me get more knowledge so I can make a better decision. So that's what they did. They gave me a price. So what did I naturally do? Because I still had uncertainty. I still didn't understand. I still had questions. Even though they had a good reputation and they were recommended, they even did the neighbor's house next door, I feel inclined to do my own research because number one, I want to make sure I'm getting the best value as a buyer. That's number one. And number two, I want to make sure I'm making the right decision. Just because someone else hired someone doesn't mean I have to hire them. That helps in the decision making, but that's not my main, reason for buying, right? And that's why sometimes you'll get a word of mouth customer that won't hire you because although yes, that's an important aspect of the decision-making process, that is not the most important aspect. Nowadays, customers want to make their own decisions because they have so many resources at their fingertips. 10 or 15 years ago, word of mouth was so strong, I'd say even longer, maybe 20, simply because there was no other resources to make a decision. But now I have Google, I have Facebook groups, I have reference points, I have blogs and articles about what things should cost. So all of this information is at my fingertips. So if I don't have anything emotionally to base my decision off of, then I'm just going to make it based off of logic, which says, well, I should find a better deal. And that's what some of you are doing in your home service business is you're creating no emotional intensity in the buying process because you're focused on material, you're focused on measurements, you're focused on the what aspect of the project rather than the why, which is incomparable, which means you cannot be compared. So what happens? We went ahead and found another fence company to do an estimate for us. Now, this fence company was a little bit different. They were a little bit more communicative. The lady built some rapport on the phone with my wife. They had a good conversation about the project, and she offered some suggestions relating to the project itself outside of just measurements. She brought some real life experience in. She mentioned that they were a family-owned business and her husband does the installations. And she also cared about our closing date and made it a point to ensure that as soon as we close, she can go ahead and submit the permits. Now, the other company, no follow-up, no callback, no interest in the why. The prices were exactly the same. I mean, really within $100. Who are we going to hire? I mean, it's that simple. And the thing of it is the other company had a fighting chance, but they just lacked that 95% that I care about as a homeowner is the emotional aspect of the buying decision, which is caring about what I care about. This is sales psychology 101. This isn't just home service. This is understanding that every sale ever made is emotional because there's always a level of uncertainty when it comes to a service. It doesn't matter what it is. Essentially when I buy a Toyota, I'm getting a Toyota. That's it. It's not going to be any more or any less than what it is in that moment that I pay for the car. But when it comes to a service, there is uncertainty. I don't know if they're going to do a good job. They could show up and tear up my yard. They could show up and ruin everything. They could show up with people that are asleep or, smoking on the side of the house or doing things that, of course, we wouldn't want them to do on the job. But what I'm using to make my decision is I'm using really the trust that they've built by just doing a few simple things up until the point of me putting down that deposit to build trust that, hey, you know what? Based off of the experience I'm having with them right now, I can tell that when they get here, they're going to do a great job. So what I want you to do is this simple framework when you're doing an estimate with a customer, when you're engaging with a customer, is the 595 rule. What I want you to do is spend 5% of your time measuring, going over the scope of work and all that. But I want you to instead focus on that 95%. That's the why. That's the reason behind the project. Every project has a story. I've learned that. Every project has a story. There's always a reason somebody wants to get that job done. It doesn't matter what it is. Here's an example. Kitchen cabinet painting. Why are you being invited to do a kitchen and cabinet painting job? What is that why that got the customer to click the button, to go through that form, to get you to the door? I mean, if you really have empathy around the fact that that's a big deal for most people. You did your job. You got to the door. But from there, we want to reinforce whatever it was that triggered that behavior. And that usually comes from bringing that story back up to the surface. You know, what made you click our ad? What did you like in that picture? Have you always wanted a white kitchen? You know, have you gotten quotes to replace the cabinets? Reinforce the value that was created when they clicked that button, right? It's so important for you to do that. Have you seen the last cabinet job that we did on Facebook? Let me show you, right? Because we understand that kitchen cabinet painting is an emotional buy. It's not a need. No one needs their cabinets painted. It's a want. So we're going to highlight that desire again and build value, right? Hey, here's a sample door. Go ahead and scratch it, because one of the things most customers worry about is that if we paint it, it's not going to withstand. But we invest in the best materials. And not only that, we have a warranty, so you don't have to worry about something like that. I don't want that to deter your decision making. Hey, have you decided on handles? Do you have any handles you like? Hey, we also offer soft close hinges. Is that something that you were thinking about? Hey, is there any, architectural changes you want to make? We have a cabinet maker in-house. This is where we start to just hammer out all of the value that we know is important to somebody that hired us based off of appeal, and let them unload what their vision is. And I'll tell you, this is going to make a significant change in your closing ratio, simply because you are aligning with the customer's emotional decision-making process. You're building that trust, you're building that value, okay? And what you're doing is you're slowing down, and you're making people feel like they're getting a concierge service. Listen, guys, sometimes we're selling jobs that are $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, and we're running into the house, blitzing through an estimate, doing a measurement, and thinking that the reason they're going to hire us is because we have a Polo, a wrap vehicle, and we have some good reviews. That does not matter. The company that I mentioned to you, the first company, they have great reviews. They actually have a billboard not too far outside of our community. And ultimately, they were referred by the neighbor who hired them, and I'm still not hiring them, because I want to know that the money that I'm investing is of a worthy cause. I'm buying into that story. I'm buying into helping the family-owned business. I'm buying into giving back to someone that's giving me ideas and thoughts and cares about what I care about. Essentially, for me as a buyer, that's what I value. But you might run into somebody who doesn't care about that, and that's your job to figure out and your job to build value around. But you cannot do that if your head's down, you're doing measurements, you're running around the house, and the customer says, go ahead and email it to me. That is not sales. You need to sit down with that customer. You need to identify those pain points. You need to reinforce the value and utilize the 595 rule. So with that said, I want to thank you for joining me on today's YouTube video. Tune in every week. We got some good content coming for you for marketing, sales, systems in your business. Make sure you join our school community, where I have courses and trainings to help you elevate your home service business. And of course, check out DripJobs. DripJobs is the #1 CRM and automation platform for contractors. Check out DripJobs for a free 14-day trial. And don't forget, if you're a brand new business, we have an amazing startup program for you. So make sure you check that out as well at DripJobs.com. So thank you again. We'll see you on the next video.